You ever have that feeling where you think you're just being realistic, but you end up just making yourself miserable? Well, we're about to dive into this really common mindset, something called the Cynic Trap. And we're going to find out why acting too smart might just be the biggest trap of all. Does this sound familiar? You wake up, you roll out of bed, probably on the same side. You start thinking the same thoughts, run through the same actions, and then kind of secretly wonder why nothing in your life ever really changes. That feeling of being stuck, that's the perfect doorway into the trap we're about to break down. To really get this, we gotta go way back and meet our guide. Or maybe our anti-guide. This is Diogenes. He was this ancient Greek philosopher who was famous for, and I'm not kidding, living in a giant ceramic tub on the street. He is basically the historical poster boy for cynicism. He took one look at the world, saw all its flaws, and decided the only logical response was just complete and utter contempt for everything. So Diogenes really gave us the blueprint for this whole mindset, this way of thinking that so many of us fall into. And it needs a name. We call it the Cynic Trap. So what is it exactly? Well, the Cynic Trap is a worldview that a lot of smart people adopt. You're smart enough to see all the world's problems, all the flaws, and you decide that being suspicious of everyone and everything is the only sane, logical way to live. It feels like the smart, protective shield. But what if it's actually a cage? Now, why on earth do so many of us fall for this? Well, it's partly because our culture has cooked up this thing we can call the genius illusion. We've somehow been sold on the idea that being gloomy and critical is a sign of being super intelligent. I mean, just think about how we perceive people. We see that harsh, suspicious cynic, and we think, oh, now there's someone who's wise. They get it. They're a realist. And then you see the trusting, open-hearted person, and what's the reaction? They're often just dismissed as naive, kind of dull, or just totally unrealistic. That perception feels so right, doesn't it? It feels intuitive. But is it actually true? Let's push past the cultural stereotypes for a second and just look at what the data tells us. And this is where the whole illusion just shatters. When you actually look at the science, the data is crystal clear. Cynics actually score lower on cognitive tests. And get this is the real kicker. They are worse at spotting liars than trusting people. So why is that? It's because a cynic has already made up their mind. They assume they already know everyone's selfish motives, so they just stop paying attention to what's really happening. So not only is being a cynic not making you any smarter, it's actively hurting you. The best way to think about it is like a kind of poison pill that you willingly take every single day. This quote just nails it. When you adopt that cynical worldview, you are conditioning your body for suspicion and isolation. Your brain literally rewires itself based on your repeated thoughts. So if you keep firing those everyone's out to get me circuits, you actually shut down the pathways for teamwork, for community, for connection. It's a poison that promises to protect you, but all it really delivers is loneliness. Okay, that's the bad news. I know, it's a little grim. But here's the great news. This is not a life sentence. You can absolutely escape the trap. So let's shift gears and get into the actionable plan for how to do it. The escape plan has 3 core steps. It's pretty simple. First, we have to shift our fundamental mindset. Second, we need to start casting votes for the person we actually want to become with our daily actions. And third, we learn to use our struggles as fuel for growth, not just as more proof that the world is broken. So, step 1, and this is maybe the most crucial point, the mental shift. See, most cynics are operating from a scarcity mindset, this belief that everything is limited, that there's not enough to go around, and they're always going to get the short end of the stick. We need to move from that to something called hopeful skepticism. And let's look at the actual chemistry behind this, because it's fascinating. Cynicism floods your system with the stress hormone cortisol, locking you in this state of fear and shame. But hopeful skepticism, that's totally different. A skeptic doesn't just mistrust everyone by default. They act more like a scientist, gathering data to see who's actually trustworthy. That simple shift changes your brain chemistry from cortisol to oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which literally opens you up to growth and connection. All right, let's move on to step 2, which is all about action. You don't just think your way into a new identity. You have to act your way into it. Every single thing you do is like casting a vote for the kind of person you are. This is such a powerful idea, right? If you spend your time online tearing things down just to feel a little bit superior, you're casting a vote for being a cynic. The goal is to start consciously casting votes for a different identity, one small action at a time. You are literally reconditioning your body to a new mind. So how do you actually do this? You focus on your entry points. These are just tiny 30-second decisive moments in your day. For example, instead of immediately grabbing your phone to find something to be angry about in the news, what if you spent 1 minute just doing a hearty laugh to change your brain chemistry? Or instead of dwelling on a failure, you take 30 seconds to be grateful for the lesson it taught you. These are the small votes that really count. And finally, step 3. This is about what you do with all that negative energy, the frustration, the anger, that feeling that you've been wronged. You don't ignore it. You use it. You turn it into grist for your mill. The whole goal here is to transmute that energy. Don't run from your dark side. Instead, you channel that creative force into a purpose that actually helps other people. You have to remember, your greatest strengths often grow directly from your biggest struggles. No experience is ever wasted if you can learn from it. Okay, so we've gone through the problem and the practical steps to solve it. Now let's just zoom out and look at the new philosophy this whole thing opens up for us. It's really about learning to join the dance of life. This quote just reframes everything. It suggests that life isn't some problem to be solved or a test you have to pass. It's a piece of music. And your job isn't to judge it or wait for a better song to come on. It's to participate, to sing or dance while the music is playing. And you know, this is the ultimate tragedy of the Cynic Trap. The cynic is always standing on the sidelines, arms crossed, judging the music, critiquing the dancers, pointing out all the flaws. They're so busy analyzing the noise that they completely forget to join in the experience of actually living. So what's the big takeaway? Don't try to change everything all at once. Just start today. Pick one entry point, one of those small 30-second choices, and cast a different vote. Make the choice to think and feel greater than the circumstances in your environment. And that leaves us with the final question. The music is playing right now. You don't have to wait for the world to be perfect. You just have to decide, will you join the dance?